Every year at Congregation, UBC has the honor of bestowing honorary degrees upon individuals who, in the opinion of the university community, have fit the criteria of excellence in their chosen field. And we do this intentionally, and it happens at other learned institutions. And the idea is that as graduating students, we hope that you'll be inspired by the example of their lives. Ross J. Beaty is one of those individuals, and I invite him to step forward to receive his honorary degree. Please give him a round of applause. Mr. Chancellor, Ross Beaty is not only one of this country's most successful mining entrepreneurs, he's also one who has clearly demonstrated that resource development and environmentalism need not be incompatible pursuits. After completing his Bachelor of Science in Law degrees at the University of British Columbia and a Master of Science at the University of London, he began a 40-year-long career in mineral and renewable energy industries as a founder and chairman of Pan American Silver Corporation and global renewable energy producer Altera Power Corporation. In addition to overseeing two successful organizations in distinct sectors, he has actively supported a number of environmental conservation initiatives as both an advocate and a philanthropist. This was perhaps best exemplified in 2007, when he and his wife, Tricia, co-founded the Sitka Foundation, which for more than a decade has provided financial support to numerous environmental conservation organizations and causes. Although he is a lifelong resident of British Columbia, he has extended his active reach far beyond its borders, highlighted by major philanthropic gifts to the Canadian Museum of Nature to enhance national research and collection efforts, and to establish a water research institute at Queen's University. But it is at this university that he has been the greatest beneficiary of his vision and generosity, emphasized by his participation in the President's Strategic Advisory Council from 2008 to 2014, by chairing the UBC campaign to build the Earth Science Building, and by his generosity to establish the building as well as the Biodiversity Center that carries his name. Not surprisingly, his many achievements and contributions have garnered a commensurate number of distinctions, culminating in two prestigious appointments just last year. Inducted as a member of the Order of Canada and as an inductee into the Business Laureates of British Columbia Hall of Fame. Mr. Chancellor, in recognition of a long and extraordinary record in business, environmental conservation, and community leadership, I ask you to confer upon him the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
By authority of the Senate of this university, I confer upon you, Ross James Beaty, the title and degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. Congratulations.
Thank you. It gives me great pleasure to now ask Dr. Beaty to say a few words to the graduating class. Please give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much, President Ono. Good afternoon, Chancellor Gordon, President Ono, distinguished guests, faculty and staff, friends and family, and of course, all of the graduating class of 2018 assembled here today. Well, it's a great honor, of course. It's incredibly humiliating and humbling in a certain sense, but it's very pleasing to have an honorary degree from my own alma mater. I kind of gather it's customary to follow on with a few words of wisdom today, and really I'm going to talk a little bit about what Professor Ono talked about, and that is about not just wisdom, but also knowledge. Now, of course you know that knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Well, wisdom is knowing that you shouldn't put tomatoes in a fruit salad. Now, you're all graduating today from really what is one of the world's great universities. Your brains are crammed with all kinds of knowledge. Well, now it's time to get wise. I look at my life. I've had a lucky and a wonderful ride, but I remember my years at UBC as some of the best years of my life. I spent 7 years here, studying geology and law. Now, you might not think that the geology and law have much in common, but they do. Geologists dig up dirt, and lawyers spread it around. So let's start with knowledge, and I'll get to wisdom shortly. Mao Zedong once said, "All true knowledge comes from direct experience." And I agree with him. It's why I've spent so much of my life traveling to far-off countries. I need to visit projects personally before investing in them, meeting people from different religions, different ethnicities, different societies shaped by different histories and different geographies. These give me the data points to make decisions and understand risk. And I've made my best decisions in business by being a contrarian, going against the pack. Remember, most people get their knowledge from the same inputs. They kind of have the same basic education. They read the same things, whether it be in newspapers or in social media. They interact with people in the same business or the same occupation. They don't often get out and get original inputs. Well, I would treat all the knowledge you've got here at UBC as the starting point. From this point, now it's time to think for yourselves. Don't follow the pack. Like lemmings, people often experience mass hysteria and make irrational decisions. Get out into the world and really learn firsthand what's going on so you can make your own well-informed decisions. Travel, meet people, study history. It's a great key to the future. Learn about the great religions of the world and why people do what they do. And get into nature. Learn about its mysteries and its beauties. Learn why we need to conserve and protect the millions of species that help us exist. My father, who was a UBC grad in chemical engineering, died when I was 22 years old, but I remember something he said to me when I was about 16. This was around 1967. He said, Ross, I think I've lived through the best times that one could possibly live through. And I really fear that things are going to be much worse for you in your life." And I said to him, "Dad, how can you say that? You were born in 1918, right at the end of the First World War. It was the worst human conflict ever. You lived through the Great Depression, which caused untold misery to millions of people. You lived through the Second World War, tens of millions of people killed all over the world. And then the Korean War, and at that moment there was the Vietnam War was raging. How can you say that?" Well, happily, his fears were misplaced. In my lifetime, There's been no major global conflict, no major depression, and no real global stress. Today, humans live longer, healthier lives than ever, and have more opportunities to move and prosper. We know a lot more about why we function and how things work, and we can communicate with each other in ways unimaginable just a few years ago. So things seem pretty rosy today, don't they? I fear not. And I'm thinking, I'm kind of like what my father was saying. I fear not. I fear that we are actually living in a bubble right now, one that could blow up unless we take drastic action. What I worry about for my kids is the unsustainability of our global economic system. Simply put, we are depleting the very resources humans need to sustain their existence. Clean water, clean air, good soil, and so on. Our lands and oceans are being degraded, and we are suffering species extinction at a rate unprecedented for millions of years. This cannot go on much longer. It represents an existential threat to our own survival. So my plea to each one of you is to prove that my fears are misplaced. Somehow embed protection of the environment into your lives in one way or another. Remember that the reckless pursuit of economic growth, which is an exponential function, must ultimately lead to collapse in any finite system such as our small planet. Always. Focus on quality, not quantity, and on better, not bigger. Now, I'm a pretty optimistic person, and I'm optimistic that enough people, and probably most of you, actually do understand these threats and either are doing something about them or will do something about them in your lives. And each of you actually has much to offer here. There are so many ways to make our world more sustainable. Innovations in renewable energy, electric transportation, greener buildings, different systems of money and credit, more equality built into our financial and taxation systems, different ways of working, different ways of childcare, different systems of healthcare. It just goes on and on. More recycling of metals and plastics. Don't forget, if demand for metals and fossil fuels declines, there will be fewer mines and oil fields. More economic value placed on parks, protected areas, and natural capital. Making these changes requires both knowledge and wisdom. You have academic knowledge. Now go out and get direct experience. And then think for yourself and take a global view. Think about the future. I don't mean just your lives, but the lives of your children and their children and their children. You each hold a key to making the world a better place. I hope you will use your key to open the right doors and have a ton of fun in the process. And if you can do that, you will have knowledge and you will have wisdom. Thanks again to UBC for this wonderful honor, and congratulations and good wishes to each one of you for a wonderful life ahead. Thank you.